The Academy's central training facility buzzed with nervous energy as species from across the galaxy prepared for their final combat assessment. The massive battle simulator dome loomed before them, its metallic surface reflecting the concerned faces of cadets who had trained for months to reach this moment. Lieutenant Commander Vex stood at the observation deck, his forearms crossed as he watched the human cadet approach the simulator entrance. The reptilian officer had overseen thousands of these assessments, but something about this particular test felt different. The human female, who went by the name Alex, had consistently performed below average in weapons training and tactical combat scenarios throughout her academy tenure. "Are you certain about this protocol change?" asked Dr. Nala, the Academy's chief psychologist, her tentacles writhing with anxiety. "Sealing the simulator completely goes against standard safety procedures." Vex's scaled head turned toward her. The board of directors demanded a more realistic assessment. No emergency exits, no instructor intervention. The simulation ends only when the scenario is complete or the cadet surrenders. Below them, Alex stepped into the simulator chamber. Her brown hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and her standard-issue training uniform looked loose on her smaller human frame. Unlike her fellow cadets who carried multiple weapons and tactical gear, she bore only the basic equipment required by regulations. The heavy doors sealed with a pneumatic hiss, followed by the ominous click of magnetic locks engaging. The simulation began immediately. Alex found herself standing in the center of a war-torn cityscape, buildings crumbling around her as enemy forces closed in from all directions. The scenario was designed to be nearly impossible. A lone cadet, against overwhelming odds, with multiple hostile species converging on her position. Most cadets would immediately seek cover and begin returning fire, hoping to thin the enemy ranks before being overwhelmed. Instead, Alex did something that made every observer lean forward in disbelief. She sat down. "What is she doing?" muttered Commander Zane from the Rigel system, his crystalline features reflecting confusion. "The enemy forces are advancing. She should be engaging targets or at least finding defensive positions." Alex crossed her legs and closed her eyes, appearing to meditate as holographic explosions erupted around her. The enemy forces, a mix of digital warriors from various hostile species, continued their advance, weapons ready, expecting resistance that never came. Dr. Nala's sensors detected something unusual. Her biometric readings are extraordinary. Heart rate is actually decreasing. Stress hormones are dropping to below baseline levels. This makes no sense. The first wave of enemy soldiers reached Alex's position. Following their programming, they surrounded her, weapons trained on the motionless human. According to the simulation parameters, they should have eliminated the target immediately. Instead, something unprecedented happened. The enemy AI began to malfunction. The digital warriors stood frozen, their aggressive postures gradually softening. Their weapons lowered slowly, as if some invisible force was compelling them to reconsider their actions. The simulation's background noise, the sounds of warfare and destruction, began to fade into an eerie quiet. "This is impossible," whispered Vex, his four hands frantically working the control panels. "The combat protocols are hard-coded. The enemy units cannot deviate from their programming." But they were deviating. More enemy forces arrived at Alex's position, only to fall under the same inexplicable influence. Weapons were set aside. Aggressive stances relaxed into neutral positions. Some of the digital beings actually sat down near the human cadet, as if drawn to her peaceful presence. Dr. Nala's equipment was registering readings she had never seen before. The simulation environment itself is changing. Ambient stress indicators are dropping across the entire scenario. It's as if her calm is somehow propagating through the digital space. Alex opened her eyes and slowly stood. The enemy forces made no move to stop her. Instead, they parted like water as she walked through their ranks. She approached the scenario's primary objective, a heavily fortified command center that should have required significant firepower to breach. The massive doors opened without resistance. Inside, the enemy commander, typically the simulation's final boss requiring intense combat to defeat, stood waiting. But instead of raising his weapon, The digital warrior simply nodded in acknowledgement and stepped aside, allowing Alex to access the command console that would end the simulation. She pressed a single button and the scenario concluded. Total. Elapsed time. 1 minute and 43 seconds. The simulation dome's doors unsealed, and Alex walked out calmly, showing no signs of the exhaustion or adrenaline that typically marked cadets after such intense scenarios. She looked up at the observation deck where dozens of instructors and officials stared in stunned silence. Cadet Alex. Vex's voice came through the communication system, still processing what he had witnessed. Please report to the briefing. Room for immediate debriefing. As Alex made her way through the facility, whispers followed in her wake. Other cadets, who had struggled through similar scenarios with conventional combat tactics, looked at her with a mixture of awe and confusion. In the briefing room, Alex faced a panel of the Academy's highest-ranking officials from multiple species. Each brought their own perspective on warfare and conflict, yet none could explain what they had observed. Cadet, began Admiral Korth, his insectoid mandibles clicking with curiosity. Please explain your strategy. Alex considered her words, carefully. Every species here approaches conflict through the lens of their own evolution. Predators seek to dominate, prey species focus on survival, and warrior cultures emphasize honor in battle. But humans learned something different during our development. She paused, looking at each alien face around the table. We learned that the strongest force in the universe isn't violence or fear. It's the choice to not fight when everyone expects you to. The simulation's AI was designed to respond to aggression and fear, but it had no protocols for handling genuine peace. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The enemy forces stopped because they no longer had an enemy, Alex continued. In the absence of hostility, even artificial beings default to their original state, which is neutral, not aggressive. I simply gave them permission to remember that. The Academy would spend months analyzing the simulation data, but the results remained consistent. In every subsequent test, scenarios designed around traditional combat became solvable through Alex's approach, not through superior firepower or tactics, but through the radical act of choosing peace in the face of expected violence. The human had done something that would reshape military doctrine across the galaxy. She had won not by fighting better, but by refusing to fight at all.